So that's what happens, and that's why, in a sense, keeping somebody on Suboxone long-term is more harmful for their long-term recovery. Yes, I know people will argue me all day long and say everybody's recovery is different, and absolutely everybody's recovery is different. But the point is what I see more often than none is even long-term Suboxone users get to a point in their life where they don't want to be dependent on it anymore, and they have a realization that I want to be off of this completely. Hi friends, my name is PEJ with PEJ Interventions. I am an interventionist and a recovery coach that helps people with drug addiction, alcoholism, and mental health. Today's topic is the harms of harm reduction. I have been criticized for being controversial when it comes to harm reduction. I do believe in harm reduction. I do believe in MAT. MAT is medication-assisted treatment, but I believe in short-term usage of it. I'm not a fan of methadone. I do believe in Suboxone as far as somebody going into detox, getting off of opiates and being on Suboxone for a certain period of time, but I do believe that in more cases than none, and I want to just have a casual conversation about this, in more cases than none, what I've seen, based off of my own personal data and evidence-based, is that recovery for the majority starts when a person is completely abstinent, completely sober, where they're not dependent upon being on a drug to stay off of another drug. To some, that's an oxymoron, yes. To me, in a sense, it can be. I do believe also, so let me break this down. Methadone has been used for decades in helping to fight heroin addiction, opiate addiction. Some people will get on methadone, they will follow a provider or find a certain type of doctor that possibly works in a methadone clinic, and they'll start at a certain dosage so they don't go and do heroin, because their brain wants to go and do heroin. And if they know this has become a problem in their life, now they go and they resort to doing methadone, because this is going to hopefully help them overcome the urges of doing heroin, right? But once you get into the system of going to the methadone clinic, what happens is sometimes you start feeling a way of sorts. Let's say they start you off at 30 milligrams of methadone. The addict mind will then start formulating plans, coming and saying, or sometimes actually encountering some kind of withdrawal symptoms where they're hurting and they're not feeling well. So they'll go and they'll say, I'm feeling this and I don't know that this is really working for me. And then the provider will then say, well, then let's up your dose. And so they'll take them from, let's say, 30 milligrams to 40 milligrams. This could become an oncoming thing to the point where the person will go from 40 to 50 to 100 to even up to 150 milligrams. So now they're going to this methadone clinic and increasing their methadone. And this is supposed to be, keeping them from wanting to do the heavier drug. Now, sometimes when they get to that higher dosage, what they'll do, since they get cut off by the methadone clinic at a certain dosage, they'll start seeking other methadone from, let's say, a drug dealer, which there are drug dealers that distribute methadone too, along with the other drugs that they might be selling. That's why sometimes we will see people that come into treatment finally when they want to get over their methadone addiction at 270 milligrams. This is life-threatening. This is horrible. This is, especially when the person's coming off of that. I mean, it's not necessarily killing them, but it's a super high dosage. They should not be on it, right? And they're not really living. So there's no recovery in that. Yes, it's harm reduction to a certain extent, but now they're not just using it from the methadone clinic, they're also abusing it from somebody else where it's not prescribed, and now they're totally doing too much than they should be. They come into our care and trying to detox somebody off 270 milligrams of methadone is quite gruesome. So are they really reducing their harm, or has one addiction been substituted for another? Then we go to buprenorphine, Suboxone. Buprenorphine was first put out for pain management. This was many decades ago, and then later on, this became an alternative to methadone, meaning that it's an opiate blocker, and when people would get on it, it was with the intent of being on it for short-term time, for amount of time to be able to withstand from using, obviously being on it, but using other opiates and then staying on it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes it was intended for 7 to 10 days in a detox process, depending on a certain type of dosage until it was brought down and then just evened out to where they weren't on it at all anymore, and then completely abstinent. But then, there are certain doctors, and a lot of people criticize me. They say, you're not a doctor, you shouldn't be giving this type of advice. But the reality of it is the majority of the people that go to doctors that want to keep them on long-term Suboxone maintenance become dependent upon the Suboxone. And so when they're dependent upon the Suboxone, they may be living better, they may not be shooting dope, running the streets, or taking countless pills and things like that. But are they really living in this sense? Yes, some of them get their families back. Some of them keep jobs. Some of them are living an everyday life. But I believe from the vast majority of people that stay on long-term Suboxone maintenance that something within them isn't complete or isn't whole. And why are they remaining on the Suboxone? So the reason that they're remaining on the Suboxone is because they think that their addict brain, if they don't have a crutch, if you will, or something else to hold them over, is going to end up leading them back to using again. And it very well may likely happen. Yes, that could happen. But what they want to resist is a certain type of path of recovery that would have them actually be 100% sober, 100% abstinent. They just cannot see life in that sense. So it's better, in a sense, to keep a Band-Aid on the wound, which is the addiction, which would be Suboxone maintenance. Now, there are people that are on 16 milligrams of Suboxone per day, some of them that are on 24, some of them that lower their dosage down to 8, and some of them are very low dosages, but they still remain on Suboxone maintenance. There's Suboxone, there's Subutex, which is usually a pill form, there's Suboxone, which is the strips, and then there is Sublocade. Now, when it comes to Sublocade, this is buprenorphine, which is a monthly shot usually. It can start at different dosages. I actually live by it. I love it. I think it's wonderful. This is becoming more popular for people that want to get off of buprenorphine, off of Suboxone 100%. Obviously, if somebody gets on it without a determined plan with their provider or their doctor, they will stay on it for a long period of time just so that they don't do heroin. So they're still on Suboxone. It's just a monthly shot as opposed to using it daily. And then you're still addicted to Suboxone, to buprenorphine. The reason I say it's remarkable and why it's effective and working is there are often people that come into my care or they want to come and stay in one of our homes and they say, I'm on MAT. And I say, well, I can't take you if you're on MAT unless it's Sublocade. And they say, why can I be on that? I said, because you can be on that as long as there's a plan with your doctor. And I see the doctors know that you're going to be tapering down. The remarkable part is that, let's say, hypothetically speaking, somebody starts at 300 milligrams for the first month. Once they get to the second month and they get down to 200 milligrams, and then to the following month, which is 100 milligrams, then between them and their doctor, they can get off of it completely. And they do not, for the most part, encounter physical withdrawals, meaning they do not go through the same withdrawals that you would if you were to try to quit regular Suboxone cold turkey, right? This is remarkable. When somebody tries to quit regular Suboxone cold turkey, and they don't have any kind of comfort meds or anything like that, they're not in a professional setting, not in a medical detox, let's say, usually their brain will start to function in a way where they cannot endure this type of pain that's happening to them physically, mentally, emotionally. So what happens is they will resort back to going and using heroin, or in today's modern day, fentanyl, right? And that's what happens. Or they'll even go and find counterfeit pills that might be marked as M30s, oxycodone, which in reality isn't really that. If they're buying it off the black market or the dark web, more often than none, these are pressed pills, they're counterfeit pills, and they have fentanyl in them. So that's what happens, and that's why, in a sense, keeping somebody on Suboxone long-term is more harmful for their long-term recovery. Yes, I know people will argue me all day long and say everybody's recovery is different, and absolutely, everybody's recovery is different. But the point is what I see more often than none is even long-term Suboxone users get to a point in their life where they don't want to be dependent on it anymore, and they have a realization that I want to be off of this completely. And that's where they actually start to get living, which then is the true part of harm reduction is when they're not harming themselves by continuing to stay on something. Make no mistake, when people are on methadone or Suboxone for a number of months or years, it is affecting their body physically. They just don't know it yet. If you ask any methadone addict, if you take the methadone away from the person that was addicted to methadone, how did it make your body feel? They'll always say you feel it in your bones. I mean, I've watched a methadone detox where the person had to get off of it. It looks like they need an exorcism. There's been tons of physical pain. They can encounter this for sometimes many days, many weeks, even up to a few months until they normalize. So this is something to think about. Are people really practicing harm reduction? Do they really have a plan or a course of action? Yes, the methadone clinic will tell you that we can try to wean you off to get you off completely, but there will be a period of time once they come off any type of dosage from being on methadone that they're going to experience physical, mental, emotional pain. Now, if you or someone you know is on any types of Suboxone maintenance or any type of methadone maintenance, and they would like to come off, please reach out to me. If you don't know how to go about that, if you don't have the means, the resources, I will go above and beyond to try to find in your local area some way that we can get you off of that. Or if you need to actually get treatment and you do have the ability to get the treatment, you can call me. I'll be happy to help you. 310-596-9356. My name is Pej.